Welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. I am your host, Kevin Noon. It is Thursday, May 2nd, 2024. I'm late. I'm sorry. Have a lot of things going on around the house right now, and it was kind of a situation of I'm going to have to get everything done at one point or another, and everything kind of slid down the schedule, but only 4 minutes late, which for me is like 400 minutes late. I am not a tardy person by any stretch of the imagination. I am much more on time to a fault. Going to talk a little Southern swing and your questions. The goal is to go an hour because, as I said, I've got a lot of things going on. You'll find out more about some of them in the coming days. But just know that I'm just trying to squeeze this show in before things get to be really hectic. And before I get to your questions and comments, I want to thank our friends at No Naturals for their continued sponsorship and everything that they do for this show. So away we go. Are you ready for an entirely different edible experience? Welcome to No Naturals, where we're shattering the stereotype of one note, slow acting gummies. Forget waiting over an hour to feel the effects. Our gummies are like a sprinter out of the blocks, fast acting in just 15 to 30 minutes. Picture this: you're just not choosing a flavor, you're choosing your vibe. With 5 core experiences and 6 custom combos, you're in full control. Whether it's energy and focus without the crash, a peaceful slumber that lasts all night, or a game changing burst of bliss and euphoria, these edibles are the real deal. And the best part? You don't need a doctor's recommendation. No Natural gummies are dispensary quality and discreetly delivered right to your door. So whether you're craving a productivity boost, a good night's sleep, or some blissful euphoria, say hello to No Naturals. Try them today and use code HUDDLE10 for 10% off your order at shop.nonaturals.com. We'll drop the scroll in at that point. Starting to get text messages from people while the show is going on, which is why at some point you may have seen me kind of give like a weird look. My phone is in my pocket and I haven't had a chance to look at those. So I will look at those here at some point. But let's say hello to everybody who has said hello to me. Mika Hanna, good morning, Kevin, and everyone. Go Bucks. You missed my birthday. I turned 30 on April 19th. Well, Mika, happy birthday. And this all goes back to somebody reached out to me. Her brother is a huge fan of the show and now a member over at buckeyehuddle.com. And she wanted to know if I could wish her brother a happy birthday. And of course, I gladly obliged. I mean, why not? I didn't have to send him a cake or anything like that. Cake. But that was something that I enjoyed being able to do. And Mika, of course, called me out. She's like, "What are you doing, son? My birthday was just happened." And I'm like, "I know. I didn't know, to be honest. I didn't know. But now I know." So Mika, happy birthday. 30 years old, or as a lot of my female friends will say, the second anniversary of turning 29, because there's just something about 30 and some people who don't like that number. So I get it. Ohio Bookseller jumps in wishing happy birthday to Mika as well. And Ohio Bookseller giving me grief about not saying what time I'm going to start. I think the latest I've ever been has been like 60 seconds. And I got up here into my office and turned the computer on with 5 minutes before the show was supposed to start. But I had to run downstairs and get something in the washing machine. And again, I've got 14 things that are going on. Again, that will all become clear this week, but you probably want to keep an eye over at buckeyehuddle.com for all of the latest. One of our big things. And for those who are good at doing a little deduction, we're talking about Southern Swing, and I'm talking about a big thing coming up. I know I'm not supposed to scoop myself and talk about it early, but we'll figure it out. Let's keep going here. CW2, good morning, Kevin. Mika is thanking people for the birthday tidings. Doug Shepard is on board. We're going to just kind of scroll here. Gavin is on board as well. Doug, thank you. Signing up for the annual tomorrow. And let me say this. We are running a tremendous special. Not sure how much longer. More than a day. So Doug will be fine. we are giving you like about 45% off of an annual subscription to Buckeye Huddle. 69.99. And that is for people who've never been a member, people who were a member and decided to go elsewhere, come on back, and people who are currently members. Because what you can do is you can sign up, lock in your next 12 months at this one-time price of 69.99 and be with us well through this season into next season. All of that fantastic. BuckeyeHuddle.com. Tom, Tony, Mark, myself, where we all, that's our day job. That's where we do all of our big work. Tom, Tony, and myself covering the team. Mark Gibler covering recruiting. Ross Fulton, Mikey Pettit, Devin Radcliffe, X's and O's. That'll start to ramp up as we get closer to the season. All sorts of great coverage and the Huddle message board. Can't stress that one enough. And the Huddle message board, relaxed. I mean, if you've tried message boards before and they've not been your speed, too much fighting, too much. The Huddle message board, a lot more relaxed, a lot more chill. Good experience. So check us out there. Let's see here. Troy V, good morning. Good morning. We talked the whole night through. Good morning. Good morning to you. I will get to the Eli Lee question here in a second. Let me get to Doug. I heard you say you were out of gummies last night. Did you get some? I have not. I have some other gummies that I don't like as much, but I have them. I've been getting to sleep. We'll see what the next few nights are going to be like. Just, changes in routines are not always the greatest thing when you're struggling to sleep. And hopefully you don't hear the dog barking in the background, being a jerk. But no, I will need to talk to my buddies over at nonaturals.com and see if I can get a replenishment, if you will, so I can sleep better. What do we got here? You were supposed to sing that. I don't want to. Oh, well, yeah. Here's the thing. If I sing it, does BMI ASCAP come after me? And are we demonetized because of all of that? And that sounds silly, but realistically, just don't, when you're doing something that is monetized, you don't want to do anything to piss off the censors. I'm going to get back to that Eli Lee question here in a second. Doug Shepard, I did a single month, but I never got on the message board yet. Check us out on the message board. Mika her birthday deal is she needs to get on and post. She is a member over at Buckeye Huddle. She enjoys talking recruiting, as you can see. The fact that she doesn't post on the message board is shocking to me. Is shocking. I mean, because she would be the person I would expect to post the most, because you're going to get a lot of good impact there, a lot of good answers and everything else. I mean, I can answer all these questions, and I will. But there are varying opinions. Well, mine might be the right one. There are a lot of varying opinions. So, be sure if you do sign up for Buckeye Huddle to check out the message board, participate in the message board. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. A lot of people just want to kind of hang out, check things out, and that's fine. We call them lurkers, and lurkers are fantastic. Lurkers pay the bills. But get involved in the message board. Get involved in the message board as well too. Let me jump in here on a couple of things. We'll talk a little Southern Swing again. I need to be done at around 11 a.m. Eastern, and that gives me a little bit more time to run around the house, assemble gear, do some things like that. Where is Mika's question? There it is. Eli Lee is underrated. Anybody know why? Well, one, it's still relatively early. We're starting to get into the point of where camps are happening, things of that nature. And I think that the rankings will start to reflect some of the post-camp moves. Two, while Ohio does get its share of top-end athletes, I think that there is still a little bit of a plotter type of thing when it comes to northern schools in the eyes. And I mean, and I'm not even saying that it is a malicious, willing attack. Oh, he's just an Ohio linebacker. He's probably a little slow, a little this, a little that, whatever. So I think that sometimes that unknowingly comes into the mind of some of the evaluators, because it's not like Eli Lee goes to a school that nobody knows anything about, that people don't watch. I mean, obviously, Hoban is a state champion caliber school. So I expect that to get rectified here soon. I mean, not being involved in a network anymore, I'm not privy to when evaluations are, the process. I've always been very careful not to get too critical of the process, because I do know how complicated, how difficult, how thankless it is. So I am right there with people to disagree on somebody's ranking and be like, he's ranked way too high, he's ranked way too low. But I'm also very careful to not go in and rail on moving something that I need to take with me. Uh not to rail on the evaluators, because I know how difficult of a job it is. Let's come here. Mika also wants to know, do they offer Dante McClain, who just committed to Missouri, if Riley Pettijohn goes elsewhere? I don't know what their board exactly looks like. I like Dante McClellan. I think he is an impressive player. The risk that you run, though, is you sit there and you play your cards as you have them. Is McClellan going to be listening if Riley Pettijohn commits elsewhere in 3 months? Or is he going to be so entrenched there? Remember Nicholas Rodriguez last cycle out of St. Thomas Aquinas? I absolutely believe Ohio State coulda, woulda, shoulda landed him. Ohio State did kick the tires when uh, Asa Villamo, the linebacker that ended up going to Notre Dame, when when he came off the board, and by all accounts, Ohio State was going to land him. Once all that happened, Ohio State went back on Rodriguez, and he's like, "No, I'm good." I mean, he did make a visit and everything else. I mean, Ohio State did give him something to think about, but that's the risk you run. But conversely, you could just sit there and say, "Well, we're not going to swing for the fences. We're fine with singles and maybe a couple gap or doubles, and not go out and land the top kids because you are in a lottery type of situation with all the other major programs." I think there was a time and age where Ohio State was much more content locking down Ohio and then maybe landing some of these types of guys out of state in certain states. But if you want to be elite, you have to get out there and trade paint with the major programs. And what happens? Sometimes you just miss out. I think Ohio State has a really good shot at Riley Pettijohn. I mean, I may be even more bullish than some other people, and that's fine. I hope to find out more in coming days and weeks on Pettijohn and where things stand there. But to be completely honest, I don't know if the ship has sailed with Dante McClellan. I mean, yeah, obviously he's not been committed to Missouri all that long, but with each passing day, you get a little bit more locked in. But then again, everybody would have said as well with the Miami running backs that Ohio State has had over the last couple cycles. Well, they were in the class for a long time, and how did they get away? Well, again, that was the local school coming in and taking care of business. Could Ohio State be the local school coming in for Dante McClellan and take care of business? Why the hell not? But at this point, premature to talk about that one, because I'm just not sure. Doug Shepard saying that Mika always asks questions about recruits that he's never heard of. Mika knows her, you know what. She knows her, you know what. Now, I will say this. If Mika were Pantone, Ohio State would have 70 guy recruiting classes, because she wants to land everybody. She wants to land everybody. And there's a player that may not be on Ohio State's radar. She's like, he's really good. And she's not wrong. He is really good. But Ohio State is in on 12 other kids, and that kid may be 13. But I don't know if Mika would be able to keep the roster under 85. I don't know if that would happen, just based on some of the comments that I've seen through the days, weeks, and months. And Mika even agrees and says that that is true. It would be difficult. It would be really difficult with all of that. Now we're here about 20 minutes in, 15 minutes in, 20 minutes into the hour. again, I need to be done at 11. I'm saying that more for me than for you because you know how these shows go and they leak into an hour, hour and a half, an hour 45, 2 hours because I enjoy the conversation that we have here. I prefer doing live shows compared to tape shows, but I also know that 6 hours a week, 2 hour live shows, maybe a little too much Big Me Kickoff for some people. So I try to limit it where I can, but keep an eye out. More live shows probably coming up over the next couple of weeks, but we will have to see what schedules look like. Doug Shepard, I meant that as a compliment, Mika, and I think everybody knew that that was a compliment. That her knowledge of recruiting runs deeper than a lot of people's, and that's true. I mean, there are going to be people who follow recruiting very lightly. Just tell me who they got. That's all I care about. I don't even care about signing day. I just want to know after signing day who they got and who enrolls. And then you're gonna have people that know maybe the big names of the class. All right, I know who Jeremiah Smith is. I know those types of names, but I don't follow it that much. Then you have there are various levels until you get to the absolute recruitnik, which is about where I might put Mika because especially state of Ohio. She knows all of the Ohio players cold. I mean, there have been times she's asked names that I know the name, but I don't really know a lot, and I'll be filibustering and like, all right, let me pull up their profile and make sure I got this right because I don't want to sit there and say somebody is a defensive tackle out of Streetsboro when really they're a cornerback out of Winton Woods because then I lose my credibility if I start talking stupid. So I have to make sure that I've got my things right. Doug Shepard, no. Let me jump back to this one. Whoops. You've mixed my two email addresses. I have two that I have out there. The best one to get me at is kevin@buckeyegrove.com. And I will type that one up and post that here for a second. That goes back to my previous site, but I still have the email address because it is too complicated of a process to get everything switched over to a new account. I've tried and I thought I did a good job and I got about 70 things moved over only to find out that I had about 200 things not moved over. So I'm like $30 a month or $30 a year I will pay to keep this email address probably forever. I mean, not forever. I mean, if I'm in a home, I'm not going to care at that point. But up until then, I'm going to keep it because there's still too much that comes to that email account right there. Mellow number 7. That's true, Kev. Mika will keep you on your toes. Absolutely. Thank you for the super chat. For sure. She knows her stuff, but I mean, there are others that do as well. And I'm not taking anything away from Mika. I'm just saying that we have a great community. We have a great community of people that are all various skill levels when it comes to following recruiting. And we're going to do what we can for the most hardcore recruiting fan to the most casual recruiting fan. We're going to cover all of that. Be sure to watch the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast here at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Mark Givler and often myself as a co-host. We'll talk all of the major recruiting issues as commits happen, things of that nature. I expect to see several more of those shows in the coming few weeks because. Doug Shepard says, check it out after the show. I will, but I'm going to be on a dead run because I'm going to have to get this posted on the audio side. And then I'll probably have about 45 minutes to do about an hour and a half's worth of events around the house. But I will, and I'm going to have my phone with me at all times. And it's not like I'm not going to have access to my email. So anybody emails me about anything, topic recommendations, questions about Buckeye Huddle, brisket recipes, whatever the hell you want. I may not get back to you within 30 minutes, but I'm really good at checking my email. Don't use my example of being 4 minutes late to the show today as an example of, noon, he's lost his fastball. He just doesn't care anymore. And I do care very much. I was dying 1,000 deaths on the inside by being 4 minutes late. And that sounds really dramatic and serious, but I hate being late. I don't like it. Alarm went off at 9 this morning. I laid in bed about 15 minutes too long. And I think that realistically, I'm probably running about 15 minutes late, even though I have an hour and a half's worth of work to do within a 45-minute window. I never was going to leave myself enough time to get everything done. I mean, that's for certain. But we're getting there. Let me get through a couple more questions. We'll talk a little bit of Southern Swing. We'll kind of go from there. Mika says Buckeye huddle rules. Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna star that question because I'm gonna get to that. Love you guys always from Mika as well. David Greenshield, 2024 is going to be the GOAT OSU defense. I think it's got a chance to be really good. Now, how does it compare to the 1 year with Jeff Hafley as DC? And I use that more of just a marker in time because Jeff Hafley walked into a room that was deep in talent. This 2024 defense is deep in talent. So I do think that there is a chance for a lot of that to be there. I think the one thing that Ohio State is missing with this defense is a devastating pass rusher. And I'm not taking a darn thing away from JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry. I'm not taking anything away from any of them. But there's not a Bosa, there's not a Young. See the super chat, get into it here in a second. They don't have a guy that shows up 70% of the time, whatever. And the thing is that we talk about a devastating pass rusher, and it's like, well, what does that mean? 3.5 sacks per game or whatever? That doesn't exist. That's a unicorn. But I think that Ohio State's pass rush has been close, but not quite there the last couple of seasons. Could this be the year? I mean, because here's the thing, too. If you really like where the back seven is, does that make the front four a little bit better? Well, we're going to have to see. But to David's point, I think this is going to be a fantastic, fantastic defense. Let me get here. Worst food on Southern Swing. Mark and I were talking about this on the message board on his all day chat. He does, I think it's on Tuesdays, a Tuesday all day chat, which is really great because people can ask him recruiting questions to whatever. All sorts of topics come up. And something did come up about worst food on Southern Swing. And the only thing that Mark could bring up for certain, and I agree with him, was a pizza that we had in San Antonio. Now, we've never been to San Antonio on Southern Swing. We've been to Texas, but we've never done San Antonio. It was for the All-American Bowl, and it was the first time that I had gone to San Antonio for the event, and it had just been a long day. I'd covered the Rose Bowl prior and then flew directly to San Antonio to cover that game. So I was on fumes of fumes of fumes. And I didn't want to go out, and Mark really didn't want to go out. So we're like, well, let's order pizza. Then we kind of went round and round. I was like, well, this place looks okay. And you get stuck looking at the star rankings and everything. It's just like recruiting. You're looking at the star rankings. I don't want a 2-star pizza, 3-star heaven, whatever. I want a good pizza. Well, we finally ordered from a place, and it was going to be an hour or so. It was like an hour and a half, an hour 40, an hour 45. I'm like, we need to call this place because it's getting late. I'd gone to the point from being hungry to not being hungry, that weird intersection that you can live in at times of where I'm so hungry that I'm not hungry anymore. Well, I was there. Well, the pizza finally comes in. And and people are like, even bad pizza is great. And I'm not going to finish the joke, but I think those of you who have a sense of humor have heard the joke before about what bad pizza is in common with. This pizza looked gross coming out of the box. It was I don't even know. It was burnt on the top. It wasn't very good in the guts. It was just horrible. And Ryan says he's taken off. Thank you, Ryan, for the super chat. Appreciate it. I'll finish the story and you can catch it again. We're going to go about an hour on this, but I turn it around immediately. It'll be right there on YouTube without me having to do anything. And I will post it on our podcasting channels as well. David Greenshield says to keep it clean. It's my show. I can be as filthy as I want to, but I am not the 10 p.m. Friday show on the strip. This is the cleaner version. I'm not. It is a family show. We welcome everybody. But yeah, basically the pizza was garbage, and I think we each had about a piece of it. I'm like, you need to call and yell at them He's like, I don't want to do that. And I get it. It's really easy writing shotgun to say you need to do this and you need to do that. I didn't order the pizza. I mean, I would have called. I would have called because I was kind of pissed off about how bad it was. But worst food on swing. I mean, we do a lot of fast food, and that can always kind of be a little sketchy at times. We try to do a couple sit down meals here and there. I mean, there's just really haven't been that many bad meals that I can remember. I take pride on the research that I do for food on the road. And that's just not a Southern swing thing. That's when I'm traveling with Tom and Tony to cover games, things along those lines. I think a bad meal is a missed opportunity for a good memory. And some people, haters out there, are going to be like, yeah, you must have had a lot of good memories there, Tubby. If I say it first, then it can't hurt me. Then it can't hurt me. It can't hurt my feelings. Um, I just have always been that guy who oh, we need to plan the party. I end up planning the party. We need to do this. I end up doing that. I mean, but then again, on other parts of my life, it's like, hey, Kevin, we need to do this. Oh no, I do everything else when it comes to that. I'm not setting such and such up, but I do pick the restaurants, and for one, I do not pick Burger King. I do not pick Burger King at all. Jordan Kapler jumps in, not trying to poke fun about your pickle challenge, but what are your thoughts about a pickle pizza? I, for one, like them. I think even prior to the pickle challenge, I would have said no. I don't even really like fried pickles. I like pickles, and that's kind of about it. And honestly, I don't like them as much as I used to. And that's not fair. I run into a lot of times where we're going to start my pickle legislation right here. Nothing to do with Ohio State football, but that's where this show goes sometimes. If you're going to label something a pickle, it needs to be a dill pickle. If it's going to be a sweet pickle or bread and butter pickle or something, then it needs to say sweet pickle, bread and butter pickle. But if I buy a jar and it just says pickles on it, it damn well better be dill. I like dill a hell of a lot better than I like sweet pickles. That's just where I am. And the last two times that I bought pickles at the store, and generally it's ones that are like spicy pickles. And it's like, oh, these are hot pickles. I'm like, fantastic. It's gonna be great. The dill and the heat and everything's gonna be great. Only to get it home and realize that I didn't read the small print and then it's spicy. And I use the term spicy in air quotes because they're not spicy. Sweet pickles, bread and butter pickles. And I'm just like so disappointed. I'm just so disappointed with it. So I'm kind of done in doing that. David Greenshield, yes, on kosher pickles, absolutely. The cat is driving me crazy. Now she's caught up in the cable. I think she knows that I'm getting ready to go on a trip because she has been all over me. Jordan Kapler, what are my thoughts on dildo? You got me there. You got me there. You should probably kick in a super chat for penance on that one. If I get demonetized because of that, I'm sending Tom after you. Let me get back here to a question that I starred. Gavin Whitaker, what will the O line look like in 2025? I wish I knew. I wish I knew what the O line would look like because we are going to see. I mean, Seth McLaughlin only has 1 year. We're at the end of Donovan Jackson. I mean, we're going to be at the end of Josh Simmons. It's going to be critical for Ohio State to get development out of the Tegra Shabola, Ryan Montgomery, that grouping of players. Because if not, you're going to have to go to the portal for a lot. Because I think it's a lot to sit there and say we need Ian Moore and the Armstrong brothers and these guys going into year 2 to be ready to shoulder the load. Now, if they are the best option, then that's what you do. But I don't know. I think that is I don't want to get past the 24 season. I think it's going to be a special season. I think we're going to have a lot of fun here on the Big Me Kickoff here at Buckeye Huddle. All of that. I don't want to do it's like people are like, how excited are you for the 24 season? I said extremely, but I don't want to wish away summer. I don't have any plans. I'm not going on vacation. I mean, I don't have any of that set up. I don't have any real plans like, well, I just don't want to miss out on this opportunity to go to Italy. I don't have anything like that. I think that about the most wild thing I may have coming up is I may go to Buckeye Lake Brewery, which isn't even on the water, and have a beer at some point. But I don't have any big travel plans. But I don't want to give away my 3 months of sun and heat and everything else to immediately get to football season, and then before you know it, you're in winter. But I think 24 is going to be special. I think to Gavin's point, I think that 25 O line could really be interesting. I think that Ohio State has to have a definite plan like immediately for when that portal opens up, because as we've seen, the first portal window is so much deeper than the second portal window. That's not taking anything away from any kids who have left to go into the second portal window. But everybody needs offensive linemen. I don't care how great you're recruiting, everybody needs that. So if the vast majority of players that might be able to step into your situation are going to be in that early window, you darn well better know what's kind of going on. And I think a lot of things too are going to be predicated on how successful the team is. And the problem is that you're going to have to make some decisions prior to knowing the conclusion of the season. The portal opens before we're through the playoffs. You could have a lot of players outside of the playoffs who are like, I know I have 2 years of eligibility left, but I have a championship ring now. I have my degree, or I'm a quarter, or I guess Ohio State's on semesters, a semester away from my degree. I'm going to go while my stock is high. So we'll see. So, Gavin, apologies that I couldn't really give you names, but I don't know if anybody could give you names on that front. But I mean, Ohio State is just really young in terms of its depth, and we don't necessarily know what the depth is, and is really old in other positions. And we kind of know that those guys are going to be gone. And how many vacancies does that leave? How many guys are they going to have to bring out of the ensemble, which is just what I'm calling everybody who's in the backup role at this point? How many are going to be ready to be the guy? And I don't think any of us have that answer. Mika Hanna likes spicy food. I love spicy food, but I cannot do it the way that I used to. Heartburn, age, everything else. I did not just turn 30, Mika. I've got a couple years on you. Went to a wing place last night. I had to order like the regular Bubba sauce, and then I got like a side of the hot Bubba sauce, and it was too spicy. I'm like, I just can't do that. I can't do that. And now fortunately, I didn't have heartburn this morning. I didn't have any of those issues. Maybe it was the 4 or 5 Miller Lights that I had that helped. I doubt it. But I did not have the heartburn issues. But I still am always, if you have a hamburger and like a spicy hamburger, I'm always going to order the spicy hamburger. That's just what I'm going to do. Mika, national championship in 2024, and that's only the beginning. Let's build a dynasty. Absolutely, I'm building a dynasty. I think that that's what every Ohio State fan would like to see. But I think that you're going to see the 24 and 25 teams look extremely different. I think that there's going to be a massive amount of turnover, and that's okay. That's okay. As long as you're recruiting well, as long as you're developing well, you're better equipped to absorb that than elsewhere, than being a mid team who turns over its entire roster just based on where things are and has to figure out how to go from there. Super chat from Jordan Kapler. I'd rather see Deion Sanders after me than Tom. Deion is less annoying. Wow. Wow. I think we need to get a cut up and send it to Tom and make it his. Just robo dial him with that. What are your thoughts about what Deion is doing out there at Colorado, turning over the roster once again? His son's popping off, calling kids that got portaled out mid. I never heard of that guy. He must have been mid. He is, I think that there is a group of people out there, and I think I probably fall into it sort of, who like Deion the player, like Dion the coach, or like Dion, like Dion the analyst, like Dion the person, but aren't really a big fan of Dion the coach. He has really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And if you're going to go out there and talk like the GOAT, prove that you're the GOAT, win some damn games. Winning September of 2023 doesn't fill trophy cases. And I'm just really put off by everything that I'm hearing there in Boulder with the Buffaloes. I just wish that Dion would be more focused on developing his players and bettering his team and being a supportive father than whatever the hell it is we're seeing right now. Because whatever we're seeing right now is just, it's off-putting. I just don't like it. And one thing I did say was the microscope on Dion is going to be so much more powerful when he's at Colorado compared to when he was at Jackson State. He could have done all of this. This could have been right out of the Dion playbook from when he was at Jackson State. And the reality is, you didn't know, I didn't know, none of us knew, because while Dion being at Jackson State was a cool story and everything else, it wasn't getting the normal news cycle. Well, being the head coach at Colorado, you're in the normal news cycle. And again, Colorado is not Ohio State or Alabama or Georgia or whatever in terms of getting the most media coverage, but you're right there by Denver, a major media market, at a Power 4 university. You're not going to be able to make a lot of moves under the cover of night without people noticing or anything like that. So little put off with where Dion has taken things. Mika is a big fan of Austin Sererveld, underrated O-line, loved landing him. I mean, yeah, what do you get out of Austin? What do you get out of Josh Padilla? I think, it was a solid class that Ohio State put together, and I still think it's really early before people are like, well, that class just hasn't lived up to anything. Well, they haven't necessarily. I mean, there have been opportunities to win positions on the line, but it hasn't been a case of where it's like, okay, you guys have been here so long that if you don't put it together in 3 months, we're done with you. That's not the case at all. That's not the case at all. It'll be interesting. Ohio State loses Enoch Vamahi to the transfer portal, which I don't think was a huge surprise. Has not landed anywhere yet, but he's only been in the portal for like a couple of days, so don't that doesn't mean anything at this point. But Ohio State does lose somebody that had starting experience. Then again, Ohio State fans' last images of Enoch was probably one of his worst games, playing in the Cotton Bowl against Missouri, when he was just suddenly thrust into the starting lineup at a guard position because Matt Jones was moved in at center, and nothing really seemed to work for Ohio State there as well. So let's get the cat down because she's just all over me. Jordan Kapler, I don't actually mean that, but don't tell Tom. Tom doesn't watch my show. He won't know. Now, if somebody goes and tells him on the board, sure, but he doesn't watch my show. Southern Swing. Let me get into that a little bit just so I don't have to change my title or anything else, because we haven't really talked about it yet. Close that. Something just wanted to do an update. I think this is year 12, but it may only be 11 swings. I have to kind of go back in and do the math. I did find the year of the first Southern Swing, which was 2012, I think. Did go back, back in my previous place. And for those who are unfamiliar with what Southern Swing is, it was born out of necessity. Mark and I both worked for a network, worked together at a network, and it was impossible at times to get more in-depth updates on national players that Ohio State was recruiting. And the reality of that is, if a kid has a top 15, can you expect XYZ regional analyst to go out and write a story with 3 questions about all 15 of the schools. 45 questions and answers in a story is a lot. That's an expose. That's not an article. That's a series, not an article. So that didn't make it any less frustrating for us. Oh, random analyst, you're going to go and see random Ohio State target. We really would like, we can't get them on the phone. We would like to know more. I'll see what I can do. And then you get a quote. Oh, yeah, I really like Ohio State. I'm really cool with Larry Johnson. He's the GOAT. We can't really base our own story off of one quote like that. I mean, I guess we could try, but you'd see right through it. You would see right through it. So Mark and I came to the decision of, well, Ohio State recruits nationally. Ohio State really recruits in the South, especially the Southeast, which is kind of where Southern Swing got its origin. Let's just go ourselves. Let's just go ourselves, and we can ask all the Ohio State questions that we want to. We don't have to ask any questions on Auburn. We don't have to ask any questions on Texas. We don't have to ask any questions about UCLA. This is on our dime. This is all Ohio State. Now, we were going to be good partners within the network. We weren't going to go out of our way to be like, no, don't talk about any other schools. But we could get what we wanted. So that's what we did. And we really set a trend in doing that. And it's not a case that people have not gone on the road to go talk to recruits before. People have not gone on the road for a week, because it started as just being a week. It was not 2 weeks or 2+ weeks. It was a week. I mean, generally a week really meant 5 days, because there's sometimes you're going to catch a camp or something. So there's some stuff happening on weekends, but let's also not forget, part of this too is that Ohio State does not have spring football. It has something more akin to spring football now than it did in 2012, but doesn't have spring football, whereas Florida and Georgia and states like that do. So back to the 5-day thing, that gave us 5 days to get in and out of schools, either to interview kids before school, at lunch, before practice, after practice, go shoot some practices. All of that was in play. So, and Mika, I do see your question about the next commit. I don't know, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk that out to wrap up the show, as we got about 13 minutes left, give or take. Again, I need to be done by 11 because I got a lot of stuff I've got to get to in the next hour. I'd hope to be further along in some of that stuff, but we're just not there. But the first Southern Swing, I think we hit North Carolina and Georgia. I think maybe by Southern Swing 3, we started to hit the state of Florida, but we still were doing a week. Maybe it was 2, but I think maybe it was 3 that we would hit kids in Jacksonville. This seemed to be around kind of like the Sean Wade time period. Maybe a predecessor to him at Trinity International High School. Then we decided, okay, well, we need to go 2 weeks. We need to go 2 weeks. That was not welcome news from our significant others, but we had to go 2 weeks. There's so much to do. And then it became a week in the Southeast and a week in Texas. And most often we drive every mile of this trip. Now, there have been years that we have had people who've kicked in donations, and I'm not here trying to do that right now. Now, if anybody would love to kick in a donation to the Southern Swing, hit me up at Kevin@BuckeyeGrove.com, and I'll tell you how you can do that. But again, we're not asking for that right now. But if you like what we're doing over the course of the next couple weeks, you'll let us know. You'll let us know, and you can kick in some super chats at that point. But there was a year that we hit the Southeast, and then we hit Texas for like 3 days, and then we hit Arizona for a couple of days. And that was to go and get Lathan Ransom, Bijan Robinson, some guys like that. We identified Arizona as being a state that had a lot of talent that Ohio State was very much in on. And as I said, we had some donations, so we were able to fly. But most of these Southern Swings have been 100% drive from Columbus and drive back to Columbus and then all of the other spots. And we will have all sorts of details. I used to keep track of how many miles I'd driven on Southern Swing, and I'd gotten up over 30,000, and then I kind of stopped doing it. You have all of these great plans of, oh, I'm going to continue this and I'm going to continue charting that, and then you get into the Southern Swing and just like, I just need to get these interviews done. I just want to get up to the hotel. Because let me tell you, standing out and watching some of these practices in like South Georgia or Texas or South Florida, it gets to be really hot and really muggy, and it's a lot. It can be a lot. But that's kind of what we got there. Let me hit the super chat. Let me hit a Mika question, and let me see where we stand. Again, we will have a lot more content on the Southern Swing whenever that may begin. Whenever that may begin. And one other thing too, for those who are new to the channel or new to Southern Swing, we do not pre-announce where we're going. That's not because we don't know where we're going. We have a pretty good roadmap of where we're going to be. Now things do change, and I never like to overpromise and underdeliver. But we just don't tip off where we're going. So there you go with that. Mika appreciates that we're trailblazers. Thank you. We do it because we enjoy it, and honestly, it gives us the opportunity to get in front of these players, and they're more likely to answer the DMs from us because they know who we are, and they know that we're respectful of their time and that we're not going to just blow them up on the phone or whatever. Gavin would like to know better recruiter, Walton or Hartline. OG Walt is starting to catch up, obviously. I'm going to still say Hartline at this point only because he has a longer track record. I think that we've seen Hartline do it more years. Now, ask me this in 24 months. Good Lord willing, we're all here in 24 months still doing all of this. And on season 4 of the Big Me Kickoff, episode number, I don't know how many. I mean, Walton may surpass him. Walton certainly has done a great job. I think that this year you look at where things stand and people are going to say, well, Walton's ahead this year. Well, that's because the defensive back class has kind of come together already, and we kind of know what is still left on the board. If Jamie French was in the class, if Vernell Brown was in the class, I think people might sit there and say, well, Hartline still has an edge on Walton. But I think when we're looking big picture, I've seen Brian Hartline do it more. The good news is Ohio State has both of them on its coaching roster. So you don't have to necessarily say, well, I'm only taking one or the other. You got them both. May as well enjoy it. We got here. There it is. I couldn't find it. Mika would like to know who the next commit is. I don't know. I've been so focused on some other things that I don't know if anybody has a commitment date set coming up here soon. That's generally the biggest indicator. It's like, oh, such and such is, he's committing on May 13th or whatever. So I don't know. Mika saying if we land Dorian Brew, Trey McNutt, and Fahim Delane, it'll be close. I mean, if they put that class together, that would be something. I mean, that would be a defensive backfield class for the ages, something that we would have a hard time drawing comparison to. But let's also remember that they're never going to allow Brian Hartline to bring in 7 wide receivers. They're never going to allow him to bring in 8 wide receivers. I would be curious to see what would happen if they said, okay, get 8. I think the reality is that it's going to be harder to sell 8 receivers on being in the same class than maybe 8 defensive backs being in the class, because you're going to have 5 defensive backs on the field at the same time. Ohio State doesn't go empty a lot. And when it goes empty, generally there's a back out there. So convincing 7 or 8 receivers to be in the same class seems like a very impossible task. I think that's the type of class where you would go and probably get like 4 national ballers and a baller or 2 from in-state, and then maybe somebody who was a little bit more of a project. And Lord knows projects do work out. Terry McLaurin was a project, and that has worked out. I do not like the Washington Commanders, but I do like Terry McLaurin. And Terry's always been very gracious with his time, has been always very friendly with me. Big fan of Terry McLaurin. I wish he could play for a team that I did not look at in such a negative light, but it is what it is. You can't always choose that type of situation. Mika says rotate more at all positions. More games means young players need to play more. Hopefully we have a lot of blowout leads. This sounds like kind of where I will end. Super chats will keep me here a little bit longer, but we are in the final 6 minutes of the show, and probably five. There is a line. You have to play your starters enough so they continue to develop and get better. Nobody after week 1 is like, well, that's as good as we're going to get. But on the other side, you need to play younger guys, especially going into 25, especially if Ohio State loses 20-25 players, something like that. And I mean, and by that, I don't mean with 12 of them being guys who've never seen the field. I mean, Ohio State could lose a lot of guys who have made an impact on this team. So getting Jermaine Matthews in, getting Malik Hartford in, getting Jaden Bonsu in, and I don't want to name every Jalen McClain. I could go down the list, and somebody's parents are going to watch like, why didn't you mention my guy? Why didn't you mention our son? It would be only out of oversight. I think they need to play some of these younger guys so they have that experience. Now, you're not going to sit there and suddenly lose Jordan Hancock and Denzel Burke and Davidson Igbinosun and say, well, we're cool at corner. We're cool at corner. We're not concerned whatsoever. You could play Jermaine Matthews a good amount. He's still going to be a guy who's coming in with 200 snaps, 250 snaps, 300 snaps, whatever that may be. It's going to be less than what his predecessor had, be it Burke or Hancock or Davison. So getting these guys experience is important, but not at the risk of not developing your guys. I mean, there's been the conversation about, will we see NBA style load management? Could we see a game where Ohio State is a 28.5 point favorite, that a starter is just not going to be played, or will be what we love to say, break glass in case of emergency? We're going to dress him, but we're not planning on playing him. The Dodgers last night did not play Shohei Ohtani. Will Smith played DH. Their other catcher came in. Shohei Ohtani got the night off. Are we going to see that? I have a harder time accepting that, because I think a lot of times too, you're only promised 12 games. Ohio State is going to probably play more than 12 games. You're only promised 12. That's on your regular season schedule. If you go sub 500, you don't get a bowl game. If you go sub 500, you don't get a conference championship game. You go sub 500, you're not going to the playoff. So you're only promised 12. You practice all season to play in 12 games. Are you going to be super enthused, super willing to give up one of those games for load management? Now, to be able and let your brothers play, I mean, I think there's going to be something to it. But again, we're dealing with guys who are on paths to making millions of dollars in the league, and probably want to have a lot of tape out there. Now, there may be other positions where it's not as much of a deal. I mean, we're seeing, a 1 and 1A at running back with Trevion and Quinshawn, and I don't think we're going to see a load management case of where somebody's not going to get a game because of that. But, I think we could see a game where somebody gets 12 carries. Oh, we're going to take it easy on this guy. I think it might be easier if somebody is a little banged up. It's a little easier to keep him out. Now they don't have a Dallin Hayden behind their top two running backs. They do have a James Peoples. They do have a TC Caffey. They do have a Sam Williams-Dixon. But It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see kind of where that goes. Let's get through a couple more things as we're in the final minute. Doug Shepard says 5 good minutes. Yeah, I'm not going to move in on anybody else's franchise, but that would have been good. Mika Hanna would like to see the Bengals trade for Terry. I think I'd love to see him go to the Colts just so he could go back home. But I don't know. I don't know. Just not Washington. Doug Shepard, you go sub 500, you get the entire coaching staff at Ohio State fired. I was using sub 500 just as an example. Just as an example that you're only promised 12. Now at Ohio State, you're only promised 13, realistically. Ohio State's making a bowl game and playing 12. Do you get 14? Do you get the conference championship game? Do you get multiple games in the postseason, meaning you're in the playoff? That is the question. It is 11 o'clock. We have done it. We have made it. I've got some gear to pack up. I've got to try and have a quick lunch and be ready for some other things. But I want to thank everybody for joining us here on this impromptu live show. Be sure to hit the bell, subscribe to the channel. We are over 20,000 subscribers here on our YouTube channel. Help us get to 25,000 before the start of the season. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, don't miss a single thing. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, leave us a 5-star review. Sign up for Buckeye Huddle. $69.99 annual. 45% savings. What a deal. What a deal. This is the time to get on board. I'm just telling you, lots going to be going on. Get on board with us. $69.99 Buckeye Huddle. Sign up for an annual subscription. Check out our friends at nonaturals.com, shop.nonaturals.com. Using code HUDDLE10, 10% off your order. Dispensary quality delivered directly to your door. A lot of D's in there. I had to kind of work my way through that. Mika, awesome show. Love you, Kevin. Thank you, Mika. Love you as well. Doug Shepard, have a wonderful, productive day. And says that he likes me. I like you too. I don't know if I like you, but I do like you. Like you all. But until then, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you very soon.